Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday morning, April 27th. A chilly air mass is moving into the mid-Atlantic region, the northeastern part of the nation this morning. It looks like it'll stay colder than normal for the next 48 hours or so, and overnight lows in most suburban areas along the I-95 corridor region will be way down into the 30s. Some areas could flirt with the freezing mark late tonight and again late tomorrow night, and then there'll be some modification in temperatures at the end of the work week and going into the upcoming weekend. The next big storm to deal with across the nation will take place probably in the Friday, Saturday time frame in the middle part of the country. It could have some accumulating snow in its cold sector to the north and west, places like the higher elevations of the Dakotas, and potentially some severe weather in the heartland of the nation Friday into Saturday, and we'll kind of talk about that over the next couple of minutes. Before we get to the weather, wanted to talk about a celestial event that is worth viewing any of the next few mornings, and it really kind of peaks in interest come Saturday morning. We'll explain why. Right now we have an alignment of several of the planets. If you wake up early in the morning, just before sunrise, let's say a half hour to an hour before actual local sunrise, tomorrow morning, the next morning, and even on Saturday morning, you'll see something like this in the eastern sky. Saturn, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. Notice how close in appearance Venus and Jupiter are tomorrow morning. Well, these two planets actually get even closer, again, in terms of appearance here on Earth. By Saturday morning, there's really what we call a conjunction of Venus and Jupiter. It'll look to most like one big bright star or planet, but indeed they'll be of course separated in reality, but in appearance they'll look like they are nearly colliding with each other. Again, that's early Saturday morning. But for the next few mornings, Saturn, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter will be lined up like this in the eastern sky, maybe the southeastern sky, depending on your exact location. And then by Saturday morning, there'll be a conjunction of Venus and Jupiter. By the way, we have full details of this particular celestial event on our homepage right now in our space events page on arcfieldweather.com. This particular map comes from spaceweather.com. Well, now let's get back to the weather situation. We're looking at the 0Z run of the GFS model, the operational version of the GFS, 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Again, as we begin the day here at midweek, we have a cold air mass relative to normal, some 20 degrees below the normal for this time of the year across the Great Lakes, pushing now into the mid-Atlantic region, the northeastern part of the nation. Winds will increase today in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, out of the northwest, and that will usher in this colder than normal air mass. And again, temperatures late tonight, early tomorrow, and again late tomorrow night and early Friday morning will be in the 30s in most suburban locations across the I-95 corridor region to the north and west of the big cities. Some areas will certainly flirt with the freezing mark. Let's move forward here. We see this cold air hangs around for the next 48 hours or so, and here we are now by Friday morning. Notice a big warm up out in the middle part of the nation by Friday morning. Cold air still hanging on certainly into Friday morning across the eastern third of the nation. Then we go later in the day on Friday. This is when we start to get a clash of air masses out in the middle part of the nation. We've talked about a clash of air masses this time of the year often leads to some severe weather, and that is indeed the possibility Friday, Saturday, middle part of the nation. We have warmer than normal air out ahead of a colder than normal air mass, and that's pressing to the east, and it results in quite a swirl here at the 850 millibar in terms of the temperature pattern here, and indeed there'll be a strong low pressure system forming out in the middle part of the nation by the early part of the weekend. Could be some snow with this out in the higher elevation like the Black Hills of the Dakotas later Friday going into the day on Saturday, and maybe even some severe weather near the Mississippi Valley region. Well, before we take a look at the surface forecast maps, this is in fact the severe weather probability map from NOAA's Storm Prediction Center for the time period Friday into early Saturday. Again, The middle part of the nation is the area to watch. At the end of the work week, going into the early part of the weekend, potential for some severe weather as colder air drops in from the north and west, and warmer and increasingly humid air rises up to the north from the Gulf of Mexico into the Mississippi Valley region. Again, there can be some accumulating snow in the higher elevations of the Dakotas from this particular late week, early weekend storm. Well, let's now wrap up with the surface forecast maps, and as has been the case quite often over the past couple of weeks, we have a colder air mass moving into the northeastern part of the nation. Strong northwest winds gusting up to 30 to 35 miles per hour today throughout the mid-Atlantic region, the northeastern part of the nation. Canadian high pressure drives to the south and east, and it stays quite cold, quite a bit colder than normal for the next couple of days in the big cities along the I-95 corridor region and surrounding suburban locations. Let's move forward here, and we have a few snow showers associated with this cold blast up across New England, especially northern part of Maine over the next 24 to 36 hours or so. This is the forecast map for tomorrow morning, and winds blow clockwise around highs, and this is still producing quite a stiff north to northwest wind across the mid-Atlantic region, the northeastern part of the nation. Again, overnight lows way down in the 30s by tomorrow morning. It stays quite cold on Thursday night going into Friday morning. Now here we go, by Friday afternoon, notice here the wind pattern starting to set up here. Now winds flow counterclockwise around low pressure areas, which at this particular time, midday Friday, developing right here. So you have colder air on the northwest side, and notice the snow across the higher elevations of the northern Rockies, and you have increasingly warm and humid air pumping up on the warm sector of this particular storm on its southeastern flank. Warmer, more humid air flowing northward from the Gulf of Mexico. That sets the stage for the potential of severe weather across parts of the Mississippi Valley region later Friday night, going into the day on Saturday. Let's move forward here. Here we go by Friday evening. A screaming south wind from Texas all the way up into the Mississippi Valley, all the way up towards Iowa, Minnesota. Meanwhile, cold on the northwest side, and this will result in some accumulating snow, places like the Black Hills of South Dakota, some of those higher elevation locations. This is indeed quite a healthy storm at this particular time that'll have kind of all the characteristics of a big springtime storm. Snow to the north and west, possible severe weather to its south and east. And here we go by Saturday morning. Look at the snow up across North Dakota, probably going into northwestern South Dakota as well. And then this storm drives to the northeast, right across the western Great Lakes, and by the time we get to the early part of next weekend, it pushes up towards the Hudson Bay region of Canada, and its frontal system tends to weaken as it pushes into the eastern U.S. So another cold air outbreak for the mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S., the Great Lakes for the next 48 hours or so, and then watch out for a pretty big storm later Friday, going into the day on Saturday across the heartland of the nation, the midsection of the nation. It'll produce some accumulating snow in its cold sector to the north and west across the Dakotas, and the potential exists for some severe weather across places like the Mississippi Valley later Friday night, going into the day on Saturday. That's it for now. Watch out also for that celestial event each of the next few mornings, just before sunrise. Anytime maybe a half hour to an hour before local sunrise, take a look to the east, to the southeast, the low part of the sky, and you'll see these planets align. And again, Venus and Jupiter tend to appear together by the time we get to early Saturday morning. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.